What's up, everybody? Benji, Bruce here. Today we are going to get going. Let's see who's hopping on. Welcome back, everybody. If you noticed that I wasn't doing the whole Facebook Live for a whole week, it felt like a freaking year, felt like a decade. And I want to tell you guys why, and I want to go into the whole thing. We're just going to talk about thinking about the future of your business, because that's what I was doing for the whole week. So I read a long time ago, I read about Bill Gates, where Bill Gates, what he would do for a whole week, he would go to a cabin, like some remote cabin. Nobody could really get a hold of him. And in the cabin, he would just read and he would think about the future of business, like think about the future of Microsoft. When he was at Microsoft, he would think about that whole thing, like where are things going? How do I shift? How do I change? And that's what I want to talk about, because I did something similar. And let's actually follow along here. I don't have this thing pulled up. All right. So, I basically did something similar in terms of just going away for a whole week, not doing anything other than thinking about the future of the business, where are things going, like 5G that's coming out, all sorts of things like that. So that's what I want to talk about. And if you're going to do something similar, I really do recommend it. This is not one of the things where you're taking a social media break. So you're not taking a break. You're not having a vacation. It's not one of those things. In fact, you're doing the exact opposite. You're really getting your brain working. So remember how you may have read some books about working on your business versus working in your business. And working in your business is basically you doing the physical things. Like you're actually filming a video. You're actually doing a Facebook Live. You're creating photos, or you're sending out emails, cold calls, or whatever. You're actually doing the things. Working on the business, you're building more systems and you're like automation sequences, or in this case, like you're thinking about the future and where everything's going. So this is more along the lines of working on the business rather than working in the business. When you work on the business, that's when you can really just kind of take leaps within your business. And so that's basically what I was doing. I want to stress this. I really want to stress this. When I was gone for the whole week, I was not taking a vacation. I want to stress that. It is not a vacation. I'm not sitting there like, time to relax. Let me just chill. No, I wasn't doing that. I literally, I closed the blinds here in the high rise. I closed all the blinds and I put on my hoodie, because my hoodie, I'll like put on the hoodie and I'll just like close it. That way I'm just like focused. And I just had a notepad. I'm just sitting down, just writing all these thoughts that are popping into my brain about like where the future of technology is going, how it's going to influence my business and all that. So I'm just writing down the whole thing. Just had a whole freaking couple notepads filled with stuff. And so that's what I was doing, and I really recommend you do that as well. So I want to talk about the lessons that I learned from just sitting down and just thinking about the future of the business, and how if you want to do something similar, then do exactly what I'm about to tell you. So what's up, everybody? What's up? Let's see. All right. What's up, Joel? We got my mom on here. We got Ari. Let's see. We got Mike. What's up, people? What's up, James, and all you Instagram peeps over there? All right. So basically a couple lessons that I learned. Well, first things first, before you actually do this. So if you actually decide that you want to take, let's say, a whole week, or even if you don't want to do a whole week, let's say you do 2-3 days, you're going to do this where you think about the future of your business. First thing you have to do is you have to tell people, hey, here's what I'm doing. So we're not going to be talking on the phone. We're not going to be email. We're not going to be texting, none of that stuff. You got to tell people that, because otherwise they're going to think you're ignoring them. And then they're going to be like, what the heck, man? And so that's what I did. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, look, here's what's going to happen. We ain't talking. We're not talking anymore. We're not talking anymore. I know I'm your son, but we're not talking anymore. All right. You got that? And then my mom was like, okay, sure. And so what you do is you got to tell people like, hey, for a whole week, this is what's going to happen. And so you just make sure that people understand that. And so after you do that, then here's a couple lessons that I learned from doing this. First thing that I would do is I would look at, what's up, Alex? I would look at the unintended consequences. So just unintended consequences of everything. And this is really important when you're doing anything, because the unintended consequences, that's where the opportunities are at. Because unintended consequences, it essentially creates like new industries, new everything. So for example, let's take weed. So there's 3 marijuana stores. Yeah, just look out the window. There's like one over there and then 2 just right over there. And so if you look at the marijuana industry, it's growing like crazy. Think about the unintended consequences of that, the marijuana industry, to where something as simple as they can't put money into the banks right now, because banks, it's still not federally legal, so banks don't want to risk it. And so a simple unintended consequence of that is where the opportunity is, where, hey, if I can become a bank for weed, for marijuana, then poof, you'll build like a huge freaking business. It'll be ridiculous if you become the bank of marijuana, of the marijuana industry. And so all you're doing is whenever you're thinking about the future, you're looking at the unintended consequences of everything. And more importantly, you're looking at how it influences your specific business. So an unintended consequence, by the way, is just really it's outcomes that weren't intended to happen. And a perfect example of this is the MeToo movement. Hands down, perfect example of the unintended consequences. So everyone, I'm assuming most people know what the MeToo movement is. I saw the unintended consequences instantly. I was like, oh man, this is going to suck for them. Like they have no idea what they just did, because what happened with the Me Too movement is you have people like Harvey Weinstein who should be in prison. Then they put someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson in the same area as Harvey Weinstein. He's not in the same area. Like he's not in the whole same, they're just not the same. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he simply offended somebody. I think he like brushed her on her shoulder or something, and she called like sexual harassment or something like that. And he's like, hey, I didn't even know. All she had to do was say she was uncomfortable. And he was like, I didn't even know. And so they're putting these two guys in the same thing. So the unintended consequences of the Me Too movement was simply the fact that now men in a position of power, they rarely hire good-looking women. They're afraid to mentor them one-on-one. They're afraid to do all of it. They're afraid to just meet up with them just for dinner. They're afraid to do that because they don't want to just get these sexual allegations just put on them, because they know that nowadays it's just an allegation that can literally ruin your entire career. And so because of that, they just stay away. They're like, okay, fine. I won't mentor any women anymore. I'm not going to hire good looking women anymore. They do not say that, but I'm telling you it happens because I talk with a lot of people. I'm telling you that's exactly what happens. And so that's not happens. That's what is happening. And obviously nobody's going to admit it. You got to be an idiot to admit something like that. Like, oh yeah, we didn't hire her because she looked good. I mean, it's like, shoot, we don't want sexual harassment happening. Then I'm going to get sued as an owner. So that's what's happening. And so they're actually doing the exact opposite of what they think they're doing. And so all you're doing is you're looking at the unintended consequences of everything. That's what I did. Sitting down looking at unintended consequences. Like another thing is you look at unintended consequences of people just screenshotting private messages and all stuff like that. And so this is why Mark Zuckerberg, where you see, like you see all the news coming out about so-and-so's going to jail because of this, and who is it? Oh, Jeff Bezos. It's like Jeff Bezos screenshot the private messages and all that sort of stuff. And so what happened is now everything's kind of going to where it's real extreme privacy. Even Mark Zuckerberg, like in my head, I always thought, all right, everything's going to shift to like insane privacy to where somebody's going to figure out how to stop screenshots from happening. Like all that sort of stuff is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, Mark Zuckerberg comes out with the whole thing. Hey, we're going to shift Facebook to be more privacy and encryption and all that. And so that's what's happening. You're just looking at unintended consequences of everything. The unintended consequence of, let's say, social media is the fact that people's egos are, or self-esteem, it's essentially linked to how many likes and followers they get on Instagram and all that. And so that's what's happening with social media. So the unintended consequence of that is people are becoming really, really sensitive. They're just like, oh man, I posted a picture, didn't get too many likes. Let me delete it. Oh man, let me figure out how to do that again. And they feel hurt by it. Like when people don't like pictures and stuff, people feel hurt by it. And people are becoming more and more sensitive nowadays. In fact, I'm going to have a whole different Facebook Live on this topic. But think about the unintended consequences of social media in general. So what's happening is people are essentially hiding their personal thoughts. They're hiding who they really are. They're creating that fake image online and everything. So they're really hiding. People are just afraid of offending people. This is happening to comedians. Just look at someone like Kevin Hart, where 11 years ago, a dude posted some like homophobic tweet, apologized for it several times, and then all of a sudden just recently the Oscars and all that stuff came out and poof. And now you have comedians who it's their job to make fun of stuff like that. It's their job to make jokes about everything, anything and everything. That's a comedian's job. Nowadays, comedians are terrified of saying something that may get laughs, but then all of a sudden people get offended by it. And people are like, oh no, you can't talk about Jewish people like that, and we want to make money. Oh, so offended. And so nowadays, even comedians, they're becoming more private with their thoughts. And this is why, like a while ago, I created a whole podcast episode on why billionaires and top people why they don't actually create programs and share their thoughts on how to be successful. And the reason is because people chastise them. So they basically say, here's what I did to become successful. Like here's how I think. Here's all this. And then people say, oh, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that's not right. And the billionaire in the back of their head, they're thinking, you asked me to share what I think. You asked me to share my story. I didn't ask for your opinion. And so what's happening when people are so sensitive to stuff is that people are becoming more reclusive. So now what's happening is all the content that you see online, it's basically fake content. Nobody's really sharing what they're really thinking because they don't want to offend people. They don't want to all of a sudden get called out, all that sort of stuff. And so everything that you see online isn't who a person actually is. And that's what's happening with social media. Another example, let's say 5G networks. What's going to happen when 5G comes out? I think it was 2 days ago. I can't remember what I did on my phone, but I clicked on a link and it took, let's say, 7 seconds to load. And in my head, I'm like, hurry up. Damn it. Come on, man. Jesus, this thing is so slow. And that's literally what I did. I was like, come on, man. Come on. And that it took maybe 5-7 seconds. It wasn't even that slow, but in my head, I was like, this thing is slow. That's going to go to the extreme when the 5G networks happen, because 5G, in case you don't know what it is, basically 5G is just going to speed everything up. So right now in the US, the internet is actually pretty slow compared to most of the world for some reason in the US. And so like in Sweden and all these other places, their internet is way faster than the US. And so what's going to happen when the 5G networks hit the US, people are going to get really, really impatient. Remember back in the days with AOL and stuff, and it was dial up, and like to go on the internet, and you're like waiting, and you go off and you go get a drink while it's getting on the internet and all that. It was really slow, but people didn't really notice it. And so then all of a sudden nowadays it got faster and faster and faster. And so you're thinking like, what's going to happen when things get really fast in terms of 5G? And here's a difference between 5G and 4G, basically 5G and the way things work now. Let's say you're going to download a movie, a 2-hour movie. It normally would take, let's say 20, 30 minutes. Let's say normally if you have like really fast internet nowadays. But when 5G happens, that download in terms of a 2-hour movie is going to take about, I think it's like 10 seconds, if that. It's going to be insanely fast. And so what's going to happen with that? What's going to happen is instant gratification is going to be more and more inside of people's heads, which is going to cause people to be more unhappy with their life, because to get anything you want, anything worth value, it uses delayed gratification. And this is why you hear a lot of entrepreneurs, they talk about patience. You got to be patient with the results, all that sort of stuff, because in order to accomplish anything, it's delayed gratification. The amount of effort you put in now is going to take time for it to actually happen. And I see this all the time. People are quitting too soon. They do something, cold email, cold call, building a personal brand, whatever it is. And because of the instant gratification that's happening, and with the 5G that's about to happen, people aren't used to waiting. And people nowadays think patience for building a business is 6 months. That's what people think. They're like, oh, I'm patient. I did it for 6 months and it hasn't worked. You don't get it. There's a reason why that saying of it took me 10 years to be an overnight success. That is very, very true. So when you say 6 months, when you say a year, that is just ridiculous. And so what's going to happen with 5G, when things speed up, is that instant gratification. A lot of people are going to be in that mode, like really, really in that mode. Very few people are going to be in the delayed gratification mode. And you have to be one of the people, one of those people inside the delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. And so little things like that, you're looking at these unintended consequences of everything. I'm talking about like all different industries, everything, not just your industry. So I didn't sit down and I didn't say, okay, so I'm producing content, I'm building up an email list. I didn't sit down and think, all right, how can I build the email list? I'm not thinking about that. I did think about it, but that wasn't the main focus. The main focus was, how is everything else going to influence my industry? And I'm thinking about the unintended consequences of everything. So what's going to happen when people want that instant gratification? That's how I'm thinking. And so I do want to mention the other thing that I learned from this whole cabin experience was the other thing that I learned was you have to plan for the unplanned. So the very first day, I got into the mode, right? Just get my hoodie on, boom. All right, just put all the blinds down in here. I'm going. The second day I woke up, I started out great, did my boxing in the morning. Then all of a sudden I'm like, achoo! Oh, damn it. All right, and I just go do my, achoo! What the, achoo! Oh, hell no. And I had allergies. I was like, what the heck? And my nose is all stuffed. I'm like, oh, hell no. I was actually kind of pissed because I'm like, man, I'm trying to work and freaking allergies out of nowhere. And so you got to plan for the unplanned, because that's what's going to happen to you no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're doing this cabin mode thing or no matter what, things like that's going to happen. So you got to plan for the unplanned. And so I planned for this. I mean, I remember first time I got allergies. I didn't know what the heck allergies were. I remember first time it happened, I was like, I feel like, or I don't feel sick, but the symptoms seem like I'm sick, runny nose, sneezing. And so what you do is you plan for the unplanned. So I already had allergy medicine. I already had it here. I had a neti pot, I got one of those, it's like a facial steamer thing. It's actually meant for beauty, but I was like, I'm beautiful enough. I'm gonna use this facial steamer for allergies. So it just like steams out hot water. And so it's just like, and so you kind of breathe better. And so I was prepared for it. So I was like, I'm going to kick your ass, allergies. And so that's what happened. So you plan for the unplanned, and little things like that, it's going to get in your way. So that's what I did. So that was pretty much my whole second day, pretty much. Second day I was reading. Then I started getting back into the mode again. So at that point, it's really important that when you start thinking about the future of things and where your business is going and where everything's going, you think beyond your initial thoughts. This is why someone like Warren Buffett, he talks about how thinking is what he does most of the day. Like literally like 80% of his day is just thinking. And Bill Gates even kind of laughed at it. Bill Gates said, man, my schedule is like filled up to the very second. I mean, like we have it all planned to the freaking second. Look at Warren Buffett's schedule. The dude has like 3 things to do for the entire month, and everything else like he's thinking. And so what you do when you are thinking about the future is what happens. Your initial thought is going to be very basic. So whatever you think about is going to be very basic. It's going to be the same thoughts that everybody and their mama has about whatever it is you're thinking about. And what you have to do is you have to go beyond that basic thought. And so you kind of get into the flow of things. You get into the mode. So you sit down, let's say you're writing, and then let's say I think, all right, 5G networks, everything's going fast. All right, instant gratification, delayed gratification. And I keep thinking about it. I don't stop there. I go to the next level. Okay, delayed gratification. And you just keep going up to different levels. And that's a really, really important thing that you have to do. What I did is I use the internet, by the way. So once again, this is not a break from the internet. It's not a break from social media. None of that stuff. It just so happens I didn't post on social media. And so I'm not taking a break. All I did was when I had a thought about something, I said, okay, let me Google it. So I wanted to see what other people were thinking about it, because if other people already thought about it, I'm simply going to take their thought that they already had. Let's say I agree with it. I'm going to take that thought. I'm just going to think beyond that thought, because there's no reason for me to do the work when someone else has already done the work. So if I'm sitting here thinking about 5G networks and I say, okay, where's 5G? How's this going to take, where's this going to take everything? Or let's say I'm thinking about virtual reality. All right, where's virtual reality going to take everything? How's it going to affect my business? So I'm thinking about virtual reality. I'm going to type in, let's say virtual reality, building a personal brand. I'm going to look to see what are other people thinking, and then I'm going to think beyond their thoughts. Because if I were to sit down and I were to think, I'm going to come up with very similar thoughts to what other people are posting online. And so what I'll do is I'll just search for their thoughts anyways, kind of forget about my thinking, like, well, forget that. Let me just see what they're thinking. Let me just go beyond what they're thinking. So that's essentially what I was doing the entire time. And it's really important that you think about the future of your business, not business in general. So several times, well, I'm always thinking about business in general, like now, whenever, I'm always thinking about business in general. But during this cabin mode, when you lock yourself up for a week and all you're doing is just thinking about the future of your business, remember to think about how everything relates back to your business. That's what you really want to think about. So if you're thinking about a virtual reality, I'm not thinking about how cool it'd be for video games and everything. I'm like, all right, video games, whatever, sure, that'd be cool. What I'm thinking is, how am I going to use virtual reality in my business? In my business, instead of having a website, I'm going to create a virtual reality experience it's going to be like the website website, instead of benjybruce.com, it's going to be this virtual reality experience where they pop it in, benjybruce.com, and poof, they see me right in front of them. What up? You see the greatest person alive, the most beautiful person ever. You can click over here to the About page, learn more about me. You can click over here at the videos. You can watch videos of me and the bomb diggity. And so that's what's going to happen with virtual reality. So you're thinking about how does this actually happen inside of your business, or how does this affect your specific industry? And what I was doing is I was looking at other industries and seeing what's the unintended consequence of that industry. So for example, robocalls. Right now, robocalls are such a huge problem in the US that 60% of the complaints to the FTC, 60% of the complaints to them it's about robocalls. People are saying like, hey man, these robocalls are ridiculous. And that's what's happening right now in the US. So if you are a salesperson, you're cold calling people, then what's the unintended consequence of the robocalls in a different industry? I mean, robocalls is a different industry. They're scamming people and everything. Heck, I got an email today from a CIA operative. This is the email today. CIA operative who has some sensitive material on me. They have my name, my address, they have everything about me, my bank accounts and everything. But if I give them $10,000, it'll all go away. And so when all that stuff is happening, when you're getting emails like that, you're getting robocalls like, this is the IRS. If you give us, you're under investigation. If you give us $10,000, the investigation will go away. When you keep hearing all that stuff with robocalls, all these emails, that's going to affect your industry as a marketer, as a salesperson. If you're cold calling people, then most people aren't going to pick up your phone. I mean, they're not going to pick it up to begin with. Instead, people are now screening their calls. Like damn near everybody's screening their calls. So, and I was even telling my mom about this, cause she was doing, cold calls for real estate, and someone in the real estate industry said, don't leave voicemails. I said, no, you gotta leave voicemails. Cause me personally, and I know this with several other people too, when they get a call and they don't answer, if you don't leave a voicemail, you're guaranteed to not get a call back, because we're thinking, oh, it was probably a robocall anyways. A person who doesn't leave a voicemail doesn't expect their call to be returned. So, hey, I'm just going to live up to your expectations, right? And so all you're thinking is like, these robocalls are getting ridiculous. How does that affect my industry? So I'm doing cold calls or talking to people on the phone. So they're probably not going to answer the first call. So let me leave a voicemail and then let me send a text. That way they know I'm a real person. That way they don't block my number just randomly. And so you're thinking of little things like that. And also, like, even with robocalls, what's about to happen is, look at, let's say, Europe. So, Europe, they got the GDPR, all the stuff that happened. That's what's about to happen in the US. And so you're thinking, all right, everything's about to get more regulated. I mean, it's getting ridiculous with these calls, with these spam emails. It's getting ridiculous. So what's going to happen is everything's going to get more regulated. And what the US is probably going to do, they're going to look at Europe to see, how did they do it? Because in Europe, I remember looking online about the robocalls, and pretty much everyone in every other country said, oh, that doesn't happen to us. Like that's only in the US with these robocalls. And so all you're doing is the US, they're going to look to Europe and all these other places about the laws that they put in place to stop the robocalls. And so you look at those laws and you look at them now, so that way when it happens and when they do put those laws in place, you're already good to go. Like you're already compliant, GDPR compliant, because you already looked to see what are they doing over there, because that's about to happen over here. And so that's ultimately what you're really doing. Even things like the voice assistants. So like the Amazon Echo that I got over there. You're thinking along the lines of, all right, the Amazon Echo, the Siri HomePod or the Apple HomePod, all these things, how's that going to affect my industry? Now, you can go basic. The basic thought is, in my industry, the basic thought is podcasting. Everyone's like, all right, let me do a podcast because everything's going voice. But what's the next level after the podcasting? You keep thinking, what's the next stage? That's what you're really doing. Virtual reality, augmented reality. You think, what's the next stage? How's it going to affect my industry? Keep thinking along those lines. Something like virtual reality, augmented reality is too early, by the way. Even voice and all is pretty early. But still, you're thinking about how does it affect my industry? Something like Uber Eats. Instacart. So Instacart, I actually haven't used Instacart. I've had it on my phone for a while, but I haven't used it for a long time. And, it's amazing. It's cool when you can just be like, all right, bam, groceries delivered, boom, don't need to go to Walmart. So think about the unintended consequences of things like that. Uber Eats, Uber, Instacart. What happens is it frees up people's time. So I no longer gotta drive to Walmart or take an Uber to Walmart, spend that money and then go back, do the grocery shop. I don't have to do it. I now get my time back. What's the consequence, the unintended consequence of having extra time? If I'm an entrepreneur, well, now I can use that time to grow the business. With most people, when they have more time, they don't fill it with anything. So there's more boredom in their life. There's more room to think. And then their thoughts all of a sudden goes wrong and all demotivated, all crazy stuff happens. But basically, you want to get away from boredom. So even with things like Instacart and Uber Eats, you get your time back, but now you have to be very aware of how you spend that time and how other people are going to spend that time. This is why I told people, if you're a motivational speaker, it's actually going to be a huge boom for motivational speakers coming up, because what's about to happen is suicide rates are going to increase like crazy. I'm telling you guys this. It's going to increase like crazy. Just look at what's happening on social media. Everybody's faking it. Everyone's keeping this secret about who they are, who they're projecting out into the world. And that stuff, it kills you from the inside. And on top of that, everyone's more connected, but people feel more alone than ever. And it's because everyone keeps saying they want to have more friends and all that, but then all of a sudden they get a message on Instagram and they're like, I don't know you, I'm not talking to you. And then all of a sudden they go home, they feel all lonely. And so what's going to happen is the world's going to need more motivational speakers. The world's going to need more people like Tony Robbins and everything. And everyone laughs at it. Everyone laughs at motivational speakers, but I guarantee you what's about to happen, suicide rates are going to increase like crazy because of all the stuff that's happening. Just Russia's a perfect example. Take a look at Russia, where Russia has the number one suicide rates among men. And think about the culture of Russia for men. The culture is that you got to be a manly man, like, oh, no emotions. And so you got to be like this manly man in Russia. And what happens with that, when you have this state of mind where it's like, I got to be this manly man, is you hold everything inside. You don't say anything whatsoever. And then you just blow up and you just like freak out and you blow up. And that's literally why Russia has the number one suicide rates among men. And so you have to think along the lines of looking at other industries, what's happening there, and then how you're going to actually use that inside of your business. Think about what's happening to content. So there's a lot of content that's being produced. I mean, freaking tons of content. So people are becoming more and more desensitized to content. I mean, like, content's getting ridiculous. Everybody's producing content, and more is going to be produced as time goes on. So when you get desensitized to content, what content allows you to stand out? If you're marketing yourself, you're producing content, you're like, damn, everybody and their mom's producing content. Like, how do I stand out when everybody's producing content? So what has to happen at that point is you have to become more personal in your content. You have to basically tell the stories and become way more personal. Share things that you normally wouldn't share, because that's what captures attention. That's what captures and keeps attention. Now, my Facebook Live froze up on here, so hopefully it didn't freeze up for you guys. Let me see real quick. I don't want to keep going if this thing froze up and nobody's like watching or something. Hold on. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Where'd it go? All right. Okay, cool. So there we go. Back. All right. And so where was I? I think I was giving lottery numbers away or something. Okay. So basically, in terms of the content, it's like people are becoming more and more desensitized to it. So you're thinking along the lines of, how do I stand out? You stand out by producing more personal content. You stand out by revealing secrets, because people just love gossip. So what's going to happen is, if you get really good at just leaking your own secrets out, and then people are going to spread those secrets like gossip, and then you're going to basically that'll help you just go viral in general. It'll just help. It'll just help in terms of people just saying your name, pretty much. And so you think along those lines. What happens when people are producing a ton of content? How's that going to affect our industry? That's what you really do. And so, and then the other thing. So after I did that, I think that was maybe day 3 when I was doing that. Then day 4. day 4, day 3, one of them. One of the days I now did what Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett do. So Jeff Bezos, he actually said, he's like, look, instead of looking at the way everything's about to change, like instead of looking at technology and how things are going to change in the future, why don't you look at how things are going to stay the same? And so then I started thinking about, all right, now I'm going to start looking at what's not going to change, what's going to stay the same. Because what stays the same, I mean, you could just keep doing it over and over. You can keep producing like results, like real estate. It's going to stay the same. I mean, it goes up, down, or whatever, but still, if you're a real estate investor, it's the same today as it was years ago. I mean, sure, little things are going to change, but still, the industry stays the same. And so that's why Jeff Bezos did books to begin with. He said, okay, books. He's like, all right, there's going to be little changes, but still, people are going to be reading books. And so that's why he stayed in there. And Warren Buffett, same thing. Warren Buffett doesn't think in terms of investing in companies like the new tech company that's about to come out and then poof, stocks raise. He thinks along the lines of what company is going to still be here 100, 200, 300 years from now. So he said, okay, I'm pretty sure men and women are always going to need to shave. So let me invest in Gillette. And so that's how he thinks. And he's like, I'm pretty sure that we're going to always need insurance. So let me invest in Geico. And so that's what he does. So that's why he makes a lot of money, because his thought process, it doesn't matter if like the world economy goes up, down, or whatever. If there's another 2008 that happens or another Great Depression that happens, people are still going to have insurance. People are still going to shave. And so he's thinking along those lines of not what's going to change, but what's going to stay the same. And so that's what I started to think about in terms of like what's going to actually stay the same in my industry and other industries. And that's why I thought in terms of the presentation skills with the speaking lifestyle business, it was strictly about the business of speaking. But then I was thinking, all right, what's going to stay the same and what's actually going to increase in terms of what people need are presentation skills. Because now that everybody's producing more and more content, people are realizing, hey, I got to get good with presenting myself. I got to get good at public speaking. So that's going to stay the same. Public speaking, it's always been something that people have needed. Communication in general, something that people have needed, will always need no matter what. And so when I start thinking along those lines, I start saying, all right, let's start producing some more public speaking content, more presentation skills content, communication skills, because that's what people are going to need. It's going to always stay the same. So I think that's actually one of the most important things, is you're thinking along the lines of not just what changes, but what stays the same. And so that's what I was really thinking in terms of, and also copywriting. Like copywriting is the same thing. While everybody and their mama's thinking about content and Snapchat, should I go over to Snapchat? Should I go over to TikTok? Should I go over to Instagram? While everyone's thinking of all these things, I'm thinking about what's staying the same. No matter what platform you're on, what stays the same? What stays the same are presentation skills. You have to learn how to present. No matter what platform you go to, no matter what new platform comes out, it's still presentation skills. And the other thing is copywriting. In terms of copywriting is basically what you write, like writing to persuade. So anything that's written, those are always going to stay the same. 100 years from now, you're going to still have to learn how to write, unless somehow voice takes over and then nobody needs to know how to write. But still, copywriting and presentation skills, those are going to be good for 100 years. And that's what you're really thinking about. Another thing that I thought about was just the customer experience first. This is one of the things where Jeff Bezos, hands down, I mean, Amazon has it down like perfect in terms of the customer experience, thinking about the customer first. Something like that, it always has been and always will be the thing that you have to think about to grow your business. And so you're thinking about, all right, let's see, how can we put the customer first, the customer experience? That's what you're really thinking about. And little things like that, like speed. How do we do things faster? How do we have a better experience for people on websites and everything? If you go to websites, especially magazine websites like Forbes, Entrepreneur, go to those websites. Here's what's going to happen when you go on those websites. Pop-ups galore. Just freaking stupid. All right, sign up to our newsletter. Oh, poof, ad over here, ad over there, poof. And then you're reading like one line of text, and then there's a big block ad right there, just like a big image, and then you got to scroll, and then there's little text here, another big image, and it's getting ridiculous. They're obviously not thinking about the customers first, which is why their traffic to the website went down. Like, I looked it up. All traffic to all these guys' websites went down like crazy. And so it's because they're not thinking about the customer first. And I thought about this. I said, okay, people aren't really visiting personal websites anymore. People are consuming on YouTube. They're consuming on Instagram, on Facebook. They're consuming on social media platforms instead of BenjiBruce.com or TonyRobbins.com. Like, people are consuming not on my website, they're consuming on the platforms. And the reason is because people aren't trusting websites anymore because the customer experience is freaking horrible. All these pop-ups, these ads and everything. And so that's why the consumption, where people consume is changing. And so you have to think along the lines of the customer experience first, and now everything else just follows after that. The other thing that I really thought about, and I've always had this in the back of my mind, is you got to keep secrets. And this is actually, so here's a quote from there we go. So it's from Peter Thiel, what was his book? Dang it. Now I forgot the title of his book. Peter Thiel. See, now I want to say the one thing, but that was Gary Keller. Whatever, type in Peter Thiel's book. He only has like one book right now. So type in Peter Thiel's book. So Peter Thiel, in the book, he actually said this. He said, the best entrepreneurs know this. Oh, and by the way, Peter Thiel, in case you don't know who he is, he's a guy who also founded PayPal. Him and Elon Musk, they founded PayPal. And Peter Thiel right now, he's like one of the top Silicon Valley investors, or one of the top investors ever. He's like a billionaire at this point. So he said this in his book. He said, the best entrepreneurs know this. Every great business is built around a secret that's hidden from the outside. A great company is a conspiracy to change the world. When you share your secret, the recipient becomes a fellow conspirator. Basically, he was talking about, like, you have to keep secret. The people who know your secrets, they're on your side. You share your secret with people who are basically going to help you with your vision and everything. But every company has a secret. And so you have to learn to keep secrets. You can't share everything that you know, because if you do, then, hey, it's going to be easy for your competitors to catch up. Like, they'll catch up instantly. And so you have to keep secrets. So it's one of the reasons why I'm not sharing everything that I actually wrote down inside of my notebooks of stuff in terms of all the things that I thought about, because it's for me. Like, I sat down, I did the work. I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to do all this work and sit down for a whole week and then share it with everybody else so they can do it. Hell no, do your own damn work. And so you want to learn to keep secrets in terms of your business. And I'm not talking about like secrets in terms of like faking it. I mean secrets that, if let's say you're working on a virtual reality website. You don't tell people you're working on a virtual reality website. You just work on it. And then all of a sudden, next thing they know, you have a virtual reality website. Now all your competitors are like, oh snaps, that was a good idea. Now it's going to take them a long time to catch up to you. So that's what's meant by keeping secrets. Keep secrets in terms of what it is you're doing. The final thing I want to mention in terms of this whole thing of the cabin experience, if you're going to do this, you have to stay focused, because here's what I did in the beginning. So I shut down all the blinds and all right, whatever. And I put my phone on silent. And so I have my phone. My phone is on this thing. My phone right now is right there. So I don't have it on this thing, but I basically put my phone is just kind of like how the iPad is. And so I'm like writing stuff. And so I would I would do the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique is you work for 90 minutes, you take a break for 10, 15, work for another 90 minutes, take a break. And so I was doing that. So I was like, all right, Echo, a 10-minute or 90-minute timer. So it has a 90-minute timer. I'm working. About 5 minutes, I do this. So I'm like this. So let's say my phone, it was still out of sight, but I'm going to put it in sight for you guys. So I'm working. 10 minutes in, I'm just like, and so I was like just moving stuff around. I was like, what the hell? What are you doing, Benji? Like, why are you moving stuff around? It's almost like your mind wants to do something other than just sit there and think. It's crazy. I remember reading a study about how they put people into a room where they told the people like, hey, there's this little device over here that can shock you. Like you can press a button, it's going to shock you. And we're just going to leave you in this room for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or however long. I don't know how long they left people in the room. But they said, there's nothing else in the room other than this button that shocks them. And they said, we wonder, what are people going to do? Are they going to shock themselves? Like they wonder, like, are people going to sit down and think, or are they going to shock themselves? And I think it was something crazy. It's like almost everybody, they were so bored with thinking that they just shocked themselves to get some type of stimulation. So they just went over to this device. They're just, and they go back to thinking like, all right. And they just get bored with thinking. They're like, damn. And like it actually hurt too. It wasn't like a little shock. And they were like, wow, instead of people sitting down and being alone with their thoughts, they would rather shock themselves. And that's what actually happened. I didn't shock myself, but that's what actually happened for a second until I noticed it. Where I'm like, I'm just moving stuff. And I would just like randomly, I'd just like get up in the middle of my 90-minute session. I'll get up. Let me go get some water. So, and that's what was happening. And so you got to stay focused because your mind, it wants to distract itself. And so you just have to make sure that you're not checking your phone. That's why you put your phone on silent mode. If your Mac is connected to your phone, you put your Mac on silent mode as well. So you got to make sure that you're doing that. You got to stay focused. And that was pretty much the whole cabin mode experience in terms of what I was doing. I'm telling you, if you haven't done something like this, you really do want to do it. What you're doing, it's not just like planning. Like you're not sitting there planning about a ton of stuff. You're thinking about the future and where things are going. So that's what you're really doing. And so I really, really do recommend you do that. So let's see if there are any questions. If not, then we are good to go for today. So let's see. He said, people keep telling me nobody pays for speakers anymore. Well, no, nobody's paying them anymore. So let's see. He said, She said, where do I get the BBVR experience? Unfortunately, virtual reality is not there yet. But I'm telling you, when it does happen, I'm going to be one of the first people to do it. And I actually texted my friend. He's a hacker friend. I said, hey man, you got to create the WordPress of virtual reality because for those of you who don't know what WordPress is, so if you want to create a website, like a really easy website, you just get WordPress or you get like WordPress, Wix or whatever. It's really easy to create a website. And I told him, I was like, dude, when virtual reality comes out, like somebody has to create a platform for people who can actually build websites in the virtual reality world because I'm not going to learn how to code. I'm not going to freaking learn all that coding crap and learn how to freaking build a website from scratch in virtual reality. Oh, hell no. Instead, I want something as simple as WordPress to build my website. And I said, if you can do that, I'm telling you, you're going to like build one of the biggest freaking businesses ever. But he said he's focusing on building sex robots. That's actually going to be a huge industry too. But, so let's see. Yeah, I can't wait for virtual reality though. I'm going to build my website instantly. So you said, Ari said, I don't answer my phone anymore unless I recognize a number. If it's important, they will leave a message. Yeah, exactly. So remember what I said with the robocalls? That's what happens. I do the same thing. Like if you call me and I don't know you, well, one, my phone is on do not disturb most of the time. So it won't even ring on my end. But when I check it and I see, first, if I see you didn't leave a voicemail, I'm definitely not going to call you back. 100%, I will not call you back if you don't leave a voicemail. And so that's what people are getting into. So you got to remember, if you're making sales calls and you're doing that and you don't leave a voicemail, you're probably not going to get a call back. All right, let's see. So let's see. Any other questions? So copy is king. Yep. Whether you say it in a video, write it, or stream it. Yep. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want to post everything in that group. All right, Okay. Oh, all right. You talking about secrets? No, I'm talking about, so, here's what I learned in terms of secrets. So a lot of times, so it's almost like the content that I produce now, it can technically be like, especially the speaker stuff, it can be a secret. What I know though is that almost everybody isn't going to do it. Like I just know that, like very few people actually do what I say they should be doing. And so that's one of the little things where, sometimes you should share what you're doing to get help. And this is one of the problems with a lot of entrepreneurs where this happens to damn near every newbie entrepreneur. They say, in order for me to tell you my business idea, you got to sign this NDA first. And that's what a lot of new entrepreneurs do. And that's why they don't get anywhere, because they don't want to share what it is they're doing. And so there's a fine line between you only keep secrets that are, you keep secrets that result in your success. And if you're helping other people, you're sharing those secrets. But it's like a fine line between keeping secrets and then telling the world about secrets. So you tell the world about certain secrets, but you keep certain secrets to yourself. It's that saying of, I taught you everything you know, but not everything I know. So it's basically that you're doing. So let's see. You said the best way to end the presentation. Wait, is that a question? Wait. Oh, what's the best way to end a presentation? Oh man, that is actually a good question. I'm going to create a whole different Facebook Live on that one. Hold on. Let me write this thing down. So you said, all right, I'm going to create what's the best way to end a presentation. So that's not something I'm going to talk about here, GS. It's not. So for those of you who are following me on the newsletters, here's the thing. I've two different businesses. So there's speakinglifestyle.com and then there's benjibruce.com. Speakinglifestyle.com is only going to be about speaker training. It's going to be about presentation skills and the business of speaking. BenjiBruce.com is going to be mindset, motivational, and just marketing yourself, building your personal brand. And so any question that you guys ask me on the Benji Bruce page about speaking, I will not answer. Any question on the speaker training, it has to be asked on the speaker training stuff. So I'm going to go over the best way to end a presentation on the Speaking Lifestyle pages, but I won't do it here. And that's a great question, though. So let's see. Nick said, yeah, every time I shared some good thing that happened to me on YouTube, haters mobilized to jack it up, lost a job because of those people. It's vicious what people do to each other. Yeah. And then they only do it online. They won't do it to your face. But yeah, it's things like that. Yeah, I don't know what I was talking about in terms of, what prompted you to say that, but yeah, things like that is happening. And then you think in terms of like, what's the unintended consequence of it? So in fact, I was just talking about this, with my mom yesterday about the New Zealand shooting thing. And I don't think people realize how their actions are affecting people to hate, like just to hate. So think about stuff like that, right? So Nick, freaking idiots did stuff. He lost his job. If things like that keep happening over and over, what happens is people build up this hatred inside of them, and then they go off and do some sort of shooting. That's why damn near everyone who's done like some sort of shooting, they were basically cyberbullied or bullied in general, and then they took all that hatred, and then that thing happened. And so people aren't paying attention to the unintended consequences of what they're doing. They're making fun of people and all that. And it's getting worse because of social media. So back in the day, it was just all in person. Like you're actually at school, at high school or middle school. People are making fun of you there. You can fight them and they no longer make fun of you now. But social media is very different. You see, social media, when people are making fun of you and everything online, you can block them, but you still know, like, oh man, they're still sharing stuff. And you still know that in the back of your head, they're sharing all that, talking about me. And so people don't understand that when they do that, it's affecting a person. And that's literally what creates shooters like that. Literally, that's what happens. And so it's one of the reasons why, I'm more like Mark Cuban, where Mark Cuban said he doesn't want his kids to grow up to be like a dick. And he's like, I don't want people to be like an a-hole to people. And that's like my whole thing is like, I just don't want to be an a-hole to people. I don't want to be I just think inside of my head, I'm just like, Benji, be cool. Like no matter what, I'm like, just be cool and just like be cool to people. And because, one thing that happens, one little cyberbully, it builds up. Like it's not just one little thing. Like Nick gets fired. It's just like, dang, that sucks. But what happens if it builds up and it keeps happening and then your focus shifts to all you're doing is focusing on all that stuff and you get cyberbullied and all that and you're focusing on that, then that hatred builds up and then poof, before you know it, you do something crazy like that. So that's why you pay attention to unintended consequences. So let's see, you said, do you recommend having two businesses in the building? Hell no, absolutely not. No, do not ever. Don't do what I'm doing. So I have BenjiBruce.com and SpeakingLifestyle.com. The only reason I have the two is because they're damn near identical in terms of daily activities. They're very, very identical. And so the Speaking Lifestyle, I'm producing content, I'm building up the email list, all that. The Benji Bruce, same thing. Producing content, building up the email list. It's the same activities. The only thing that's different is what I say in each one of those things. And the only reason I can do it is because one, it's the only thing I have to do throughout the day. So it's my business, right? So I have 24 hours in a day to get stuff done. And so I have the time to do it. If you have a job, you definitely don't want to do two things at once. You want to get so focused that you have this tunnel vision, because tunnel vision is going to obsess your mind with the things that you have to get done in the speed in which you need to get them done. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're done. On the other hand, if you're doing two things at once, you don't have tunnel vision. You're multitasking. And so you can't get things done that fast or that well because you're doing two things at once. And so I definitely do not recommend doing two. You start with one and then you move on to the other. So this is what I tell a lot of people, where, like, let's say for the speakers, I say, all right, focus on just getting paid gigs, just getting gigs until you reach a certain income level. You determine that income level to begin with. You say, once I get $200,000 or once I get $250,000 or whatever in speaking gigs, then I'll start to build my online brand. Then I'll start writing a book, producing content and all that. Because if you do what a lot of people are trying to do by doing all of it all at once, let me get paid gigs, let me write a book, let me produce content, let me have a podcast, let me do all. If you try to do all of it, you don't realize how much work is required for each one of those things. So you end up getting nothing done and you end up quitting because you're like, well, I don't see the results of anything that I'm doing. You feel like you're running in circles. You get nothing done. So you just focus on one thing and then you get that thing done to a certain point. Then you go and do something else. I do not recommend doing what I'm doing. The only reason I can do it is just because it's all I do. Like, literally, it's all I do. And they're so similar that I'm basically doing the same things for each one of them. So that's the only reason. So let's see. But yeah, so like even, I mean, it's just because I'm doing both of them just because they're so similar. See, Ari said, I spoke at the Temple University last night and was very careful to shy away from politics because I know that most of them are liberals. Yeah, and so that's what's happening nowadays, is that people are essentially, it's like everyone's just afraid to really speak their minds because you're afraid of what's going to happen. And there are consequences. So it's like when you do speak your mind, there are consequences of you speaking your mind. And that's why I mentioned a while ago in another video where you want to put yourself in a position of power where the consequences don't affect you that much. So Kevin Hart, perfect example. I mean, he had that tweet years ago, but even if he said the tweet like literally 2 days before the Oscars or whatever, before the Oscars asked him, it doesn't matter when he said it. The fact is, he's in a position of power where he has enough money where if the Oscars are like, hey, we don't want you to do it anymore, he's like, so I've got enough money. I've got all these other things lined up. Don't care. And so you put yourself in a position of power where now you can share more of what you're thinking. That's why they call the FU money with billionaires. They call it FU money because billionaires like, I don't care what you think. I got FU money. You can't do anything to me. And so that's ultimately what you really, really want to get to, but it's really hard to get there. So he said, in that respect, I should wait until I have a certain amount build up annually before I add a branch to my business. Yeah, exactly. So, but you predetermine it, by the way. So there isn't an exact amount that you just say, well, all right, Benji said 250,000, then I switch. No, you don't do that. You say it's whatever amount you want. You can say 100,000. You can say 50,000. You can say 200,000, whatever amount you want, but you predetermine that amount. Don't do something ridiculous though. Don't say, all right, once I hit $2 million in paid speaking gigs, then I'm going to switch over to building an online brand. Because you have to actually reverse engineer it. You have to say, all right, if I'm going to do $2 million in paid speaking gigs, what does that mean? So if I charge $10,000 for a gig, then how many of those gigs am I going to have to do? And then you realize, oh, it's not even reasonable. So you got to actually like break it down. It has to be delusional and practical at the same time. Delusional in terms of what you want and practical in terms of how you go about getting it. But yeah, that's ultimately what you want to do. You're building up the tree, and then once it's built, now you start adding branches to it. And you're just like, all right, bam, before you know it, now you have this portion's making you money. This thing's making you money. This thing. Now you have 5 different revenue streams, and all these things are making you money. But you don't start out on all 5. You start with one, get that one down, get another one, then another one, then another one, then another one. That's what you really do. So let's see. Said, can you make a video on how to organize a marathon for your topic and how it can help reach more people? What do you mean how to organize a marathon for your topic. Not really sure what you mean by organized marathon. So he said, Joel said, what amount is good to start with? 25K gross. I would start in the six figures. I basically say six figures at least. I mean, anyone can hit six figures. So six figures isn't that hard to hit. It's just a matter of you have to start getting out of your own way and start doing the work. So six figures, it's more about just doing the work. You can still be in your own way to hit six figures, by the way. You can still procrastinate and everything. You can do a lot of things wrong and still hit six figures. The way you hit six figures is just by doing the work. That's why a lot of people, they just don't do the work. And that's why they're not getting to where they want to be. They do the work for maybe a day or two, but they don't do it consistently enough to get the result. But to hit six figures, all you got to do is just do the work. That's all you do. And to hit seven figures, you got to get out of your own way. That's the difference between those. So, yeah, but I always recommend in terms of you want to definitely get to six figures with anything before you switch to something else. So let's see. He said, should I turn down that gig or just build the workshop? Wait, what gig? What? Hold on. Let me scroll up. Oh, the Temple University gig. Wait, are you talking about that gig? You say you did that gig yesterday. So in the beginning, you don't really turn too much down in terms of, like, if you're speaking and all that, you don't turn too much down. You just kind of do it in the beginning. So let's see. Latoya said, that's so true. You really have to focus on one thing at a time, just like any other life or project. Make a list to get one thing completely done, one at a time. Otherwise, you end up starting a million things and finishing nothing. Exactly. Let's see. GS said, can you share your best feedback form after an event that helped get more gigs? So make sure you ask that question on the Speaking Lifestyle page. So any questions, all the questions you ask on the Benji Bruce page should only be about just building a personal brand, selling your expertise, and that sort of stuff. Anything about speaking is asked on the Speaking Lifestyle page and asked during the Speaking Lifestyle thing. So just make sure you do that. But by the just a quick answer to that, I don't do feedback forms. That's just a quick answer to your question. I literally have never done and never will do feedback forms. So let's see. Ari said, right now I'm only doing keynotes, but I just want to get a request to do leadership and teamwork workshop. But I got a request. I mean, if they sent you the request, I would do it. So, I mean, they asked you, it's the same thing. It's another gig. So I would still do that. All right. So we are good to go on time. We have 4 minutes, but let's see. Those are the questions. But yeah, GS, in terms of feedback forms, I literally just don't. I'd never have done feedback forms. Never cared for them. Nothing. The feedback that the feedback that I get. So my thinking behind the thing was getting a standing ovation every single time. So I wasn't selling from the stage. If you're selling from the stage, I don't want a standing ovation. Like you want people in the back of the room buying your stuff. That's the only feedback you need. If you're actually presenting, a standing ovation is the feedback. It's visible feedback right there and then. And so that's what I was focusing on. And everyone who would tell you who like saw my show, they would say I got a standing ovation because I never not got a standing ovation. And so that's the only feedback that I need. There will always be people who will say like I didn't like it or whatever. There will always be people, no matter what you do. There are people who don't like me because I'm black, because I'm Jewish. There will always be people like that. And so you just got to think along the lines of the feedback form is kind of like, well, why do you really need them? That's what you really want to think. She said, do you recommend having 2 Instagrams to build? Well, depends. I mean, 2 Instagrams to build what? So like, what exactly are you building? So if you're just focusing on one company, then you only have 1 Instagram. So it really kind of depends. The only reason I have the 2 Instagrams because there's one for Speaking Lifestyle, one for the Benji Bruce. But it kind of depends on exactly what it is you're doing. All right, so we are good to go for today. What's up, Ronnie? Ronnie, you still got to send me those pictures, man. You told me you were going to send me those pictures. So let's see. Joel said Jewish. Yeah, man, my mom is literally from Israel. I mean, not like a convert, literally born and raised in Israel. So I'm a real Jew. I'm not like one of the fake Jews. I'm like a real Jew, right? So, all right. So we are good to go for today. We got 2 minutes left. So I will see you guys. I will send you guys an email. For those of you who aren't on the newsletter, go to benjibruce.com. Make sure you sign up to the newsletter. For all you speakers, go to speakinglifestyle.com. Make sure you sign up to that newsletter in terms of just presentation skills, getting on stages. All right. Now we'll see you guys later. Adios, peeps. Take care. See ya. Toodles.